Hello again. This is Tammy Kirkland with World Class Teaching Program, and we are going to have a discussion that will hopefully help you to choose the best certificate for you to pursue in National Board Certification. Okay, let's get started. Once you decide to pursue National Board Certification, you have to choose your certificate area. That is not as easy of a question to answer for everyone equally. And we're going to take a look at that. And I will tell you that you have to know what certificate area you're going to pursue in order to download your standards and component instructions. So before you proceed to watching the videos about the components, you will need your standards and your component instructions beside you as you complete those trainings. So for that reason, it's very important that we stop and we slow down and we look at the different choices that are available to you and talk about the decisions that you have to make. This is the second most important decision you will make. What's the most important decision is the fact that you've chosen to pursue National Board Certification. The National Board offers 25 certificate areas in elementary, middle, and high school, and they are specific developmental ages. Here is a screen that we will look at multiple times, and these are your different certificate areas. And I have dropped a copy of this document in the resources below this topic for you, so you can print it out if you want to pause the screen now and go ahead and print that out so you'll have it available to you so you can look at the different areas as we talk. That would be a very good idea. We'll also come back to this slide again, but let me show you how to read this chart. The discipline, these are the different areas. And then we have the developmental levels. So within an area, there is often more than one developmental level. For example, let's look at the generalist. You have an early childhood and a middle childhood generalist. Then if you look over on the student age range, you can see how that varies. For example, an early childhood generalist is a teacher who teaches students who are somewhere between the age of 3 and 8. Now keep in mind, your certificate area will go either above or below the grade you teach. Okay, so if you are a kindergarten teacher and you are teaching 5-year-olds, then obviously your certificate is going to drop down to pre-K, but also go up through 3rd grade. Middle childhood generalist, 7th grade, which is basically early 3rd grade up through 7th grade. So everyone's age range, again, will be above or below what you teach. And your component 1 assessment is over your full age range. Okay, so that means the assessment is going to cover something either below your grade or above your grade, but in the same topic that you teach. Okay, so that's a little bit about this chart. Let's talk a little bit more. We'll come back to this chart again. So as you decide what you're going to do with national boards and which certificate to pursue, let's talk a little bit more about that, because you can't just choose the one that you want to based on your certification area. It is determined by the subjects that you currently teach. You have to have access to a classroom to be doing national boards. If you are taking a year leave, you are not eligible to do national boards. You have to be a current K-12 school teacher to do national boards, okay? So again, you choose the area. You have to be working with your students. And the state of Mississippi will pay you as long as you continue to work with those students. For example, you may be a 2nd grade teacher and move up to 6th grade. You will still get your pay because you are working with students. However, if you leave the classroom after you become an MBCT and take a job where you are still working with the school district, but you are not working directly with students, you will not receive your pay in the state of Mississippi. And that would be any administrative job, a number crunching job, a testing coordinator. Those positions do not get MBCT pay because they do not work directly with students. So now let's look at the choices that you do have. And again, it's not based upon your qualifications, it's on your teaching certificate. It's based upon what class and what subject you will be teaching next year. Now, let me say this, if you are a high school student, a teacher, it's a much easier decision for you if you teach English, math, science, social studies. Then you will either be an early adolescent or young adults. It will depend upon the age range of your students. The choices have more to do with the teachers who are in elementary. For example, if you teach K through 2, you have the choices of early childhood generalist or literacy. If we go back and we look at the certificate, we see that literacy goes from age 3 to age 12. So as long as you are in a classroom where your students are age 3 to age 12, obviously they won't be from 3 to 12. That just means that your students fall within that range, then you're eligible to pursue that certificate. Third grade can do early childhood generalist, middle childhood generalist, or literacy. Now, I will tell you, if you are a third grade teacher and you have never taught above third grade, I do not recommend that you pursue middle childhood generalist. That is your choice, but that curriculum goes up to 7th grade science and math and has a large vocabulary of terminology concerning books and children's literacy associated with it. Not that you can't, that's your decision, but I'm just telling you, typically a third grade teacher that has not taught 4th, 5th, or 6th grade will choose either early childhood generalist or literacy. Again, that's your choice, and we want you to look at the component 1 instructions in order to help you make that choice. 4th and 5th grade, you have the option between middle childhood generalist literacy and early adolescence ELA. And I did not put early adolescence math in there. And lots of times we have in 5th and 6th grade and 4th grade, teachers team teach. So either they teach reading and social studies or they teach math and science typically. And again, in order for you to do the early adolescence, if you look at that certificate area, you will see for early adolescence in any of these, your children have to hit age 11 to 15, which 5th graders will. At some point in the year, 50% of your students will be 11. However, I will tell you that the early adolescence math test has calculus and discrete algebra and geometry on it. So you want to make sure you look at the component 1. I have seen several 5th grade ELA teachers successfully do the early adolescence certificate, but I've never had a teacher to do the early adolescence math or science or social studies. I've had several that were interested until they pulled up the component 1 and saw everything that was on the assessment. So again, you want to, if you are in between certificate areas, you want to look at your component 1 instructions to help you make that decision. 6th grade, middle childhood generalist. Typically, if you're a middle school teacher, middle childhood generalist, if you're in 6th grade is an option. Once you hit 7th grade or above, you are early adolescence, whatever your content area is. And again, 10th grade is early adolescence or young adult. You know, some of you guys will have a choice. Some of you will teach 9th graders and 10th graders and 11th graders. I will tell you, if you have a choice, typically I advise people to go with the early adolescence just because the content on the adult is more challenging than the early. So again, you would want to look at your component 1 instructions. Now for career tech, exceptional needs, and science people, you will choose a category. I think we have a slide about that. Here we go. If you are career tech, that will be your certificate area if you teach in the vocational center. Okay, and then once you choose that, then you have a choice between 8 certificates, and that are available to you. business, marketing and financial services, community services, decorative arts and design, engineering, design and fabrication, information systems and technology, communications and the arts, leisure and recreation services, natural resources, and transportation systems and services. So you have to choose one of those. Those are the only available certificate areas for a career tech. Those 8, those are your choices. Exceptional needs, you have 7 different choices. If you teach, if your students have an IEP, but I will tell you that several years ago they added a gifted certificate here, which is fabulous. We've had a lot of gifted teachers that really appreciated that. So if you choose the exceptional needs, here are your choices. These are your subcategories: deaf and hard of hearing, early childhood. So that would be if you work with, young students to age 8, gifted and talented, and you see that is from 3 to 18, mild and moderate, and that is a lot of inclusion teachers choose that one. So that's an option for you. Also, if you're an inclusion teacher and you teach lower elementary, look at the early childhood certificate area. Severe and multiple disabilities, those are for the self-contained teachers, and then visual impairments. And your test is only on your specific area anytime you choose one of these subcategories. Music, I think I left you out a while ago. You have the choice between band, orchestra, or vocal. You will choose one of those paths once you register. Science, you will choose a category: biology, chemistry, earth science, or physics. In world languages, the only world language certificates available are for French and Spanish. So again, it's based upon what you teach, not what your certificate area is. If you're in between certificate areas, and we talked about that a few moments ago, remember this slide when I was talking about all those different choices that different grades had? If you find yourself in between certificates, you actually want to take a little time and choose which one is best for you. And I always recommend that you look at the component 1. Feel free to pull up your component instructions for components 2, 3, and 4. But 2, 3, and 4 are classroom portfolio components. So basically, as long as you have access to students, you can do that. And they're very similar. You're going to do component 3 and 4 basically the same with whatever certificate area you choose. However, the component 1 and the component 2 will look very different. And why I'm focusing on component 1 is because it is worth 40% of your score. And I want you to remember, everyone has to study for something. Sometimes I see teachers who get a little upset that they're going to be tested above or below their grade level. It's that way for all of us, okay? All of us are tested over our full age range. That's why I want you, if you are in between certificate areas, I want you to look at the component 1 for the different certificate areas before you choose your certificate, okay? And again, we want you to do that because component 1 is typically viewed as the more challenging component, and it's just easier to complete components 2, 3, and 4. So again, if you're in between certificate areas, then spend some time looking at that. You might want to go ahead and download all the certificate areas that you're interested in on your desktop, component 1 only. Have those available to you as you watch the video for component 1, okay? And then you can go back and download everything else that you need. And back to this certificate area again. Now that we've talked about it a little bit, hopefully you have a little bit better understanding. Again, if you teach English language arts, okay, you have to have access to students this age range. Again, it doesn't matter what's on your license. You can't, if you are teaching if you're an elementary teacher and you teach 3rd grade or 4th grade, and you are highly qualified in English language arts or math, you can't do those certificate areas because your students do not fall in those age range. So make sure you spend some time studying this. This is a very important decision that you have to make. And you need to choose your certificate area. Now, you will not register until you've went all the way through this training, okay? But you do need to choose a certificate area before you proceed to the component trainings. Because for those component trainings to be really specific to you, you need to have your component instructions and your components standards with you. And again, you have to make the choice of what your certificate area is before you can download those resources. So for that reason, you need to just stop and take a little bit of time and choose your certificate. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me at olemiss.edu. Thank you.